Hey everybody and welcome. I'm Matt, Senior Client Success Manager for White House Custom Color, and we are hanging out with Erica Ewing. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So before we start chatting, just want to make a couple announcements so everybody's up to date here. If you do have any questions for Erica as we're going along the way, make sure and put them into the chat. We can get her to answer them on air. If you're listening to this and watching this on the recording, put them into the questions or into the comments, and we know where to find her, so we'll get the answers to your questions that way. If you have not hit the subscribe button on the WHCC YouTube, make sure and do that so you get notified of cool events like we're doing today that are coming up. Follow along on Instagram at WHCC Pro, and for all of your product details, sizing options, all the good stuff, check out WHCC.com. So again, thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. You and the guy in the back of the room here that didn't want to be on air today flew in from Massachusetts yesterday.
We did.
First time in Minneapolis.
First time, Yep. Minneapolis first timer.
I saw your post on Instagram, the shot of downtown and the plane coming in. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk to begin with, before we get into our topic today, a little bit of background about you and the business. Can you kind of fill us in a little bit about where you all started?
Sure. So before I opened my studio, I worked in marketing.
Okay.
That's my education, that's my background. I worked for an advertising agency for several years. I worked client side, always responsible for lead generation, for creative strategy campaigns, for driving leads for our clients.
Okay.
And so that's a lot of my passion, is like driving new revenue, driving new clients, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I made the transition to open a photography studio after I had had my first son.
Okay.
So when I worked in marketing, the schedules were grueling. I was working, 10 hours a day,
Yep.
and priorities shifted once I had a baby. And so I knew that wasn't the life that I wanted to lead at that point.
Yep, totally.
I had already dipped my toes in photography, so while I was completing my business degree back in college, I needed 4 credits to graduate, and I took a black and white film photography class, developing my own prints, and that's what started the bug for photography.
A lot of times that's how it happens.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, that was really cool.
It was just this fluke chance that I really got into it in that way. And so while I was working full time, I kept taking photography classes at the New England School of Photography in Boston. And I would take evening classes, so I would work these long days, and then I would drive to Boston, take my classes, and it just fulfilled me in a way that was different from my day job. Mm-hmm. I had shot my first wedding before I had left. It was the biggest doozy of a wedding. It was like 200 people, all of these loud aunts yelling over my shoulders, big wedding party, like 12 hours of coverage. It was all of the things.
And you stuck with it.
I took a year off to recover. It took me a year to recover, but I realized I really loved that. And so that was basically the catalyst to start my own business, was the combination of that passion and that excitement around creating something really beautiful for my clients to hold on to, and then wanting to have a life that was separate from a 9-to-5 corporate, where I could control my hours, I could be there for my son. Now I have 2 boys, and so it's that work-life balance that we've continued to carry on for the last 15 years now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So 2010 is kind of roughly what you're talking about timeline-wise, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
And I know from when we were talking about content for today's live that you were living with your in-laws.
Yes.
And you also had a toddler.
Yes.
And the studio was a place of refuge for you at that time. So when you first started out, I know you mentioned like it kind of became more of a business, started off a little bit more as a hobby. Is that correct? Was that how you would describe it?
Absolutely, yeah. So even though I had this business know-how and this, marketing experience, I was definitely running my business as a part-time hobby. At that time, Ben, my husband, was still a full-time civil engineer.
Yeah.
So we were living off of his salary, and we were building a new home. And we were living with my in-laws, who were retired at the time. So it was my in-laws, my toddler, and myself under one roof while my husband was at work all day. And I, again,
what could possibly go wrong?
Right. I started to crave an outside experience.
Right.
So we stumbled into this opportunity to get a studio space for a very, very low price. It was a no-brainer. Even it was worth it to me just to give me a space outside of the house.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started a studio. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive deeper into Ben's story and how that all works with you as a couple here in a little bit. But when you guys are working together now, currently, how are you dividing what you do at the studio? Like, what is his responsibility? What's your responsibility? Or do you just do it all and he just gets a paycheck?
He's just, he's the pretty face. He's the pretty
He's
face
the pretty
behind
face
the,
of it, yeah.
So he's more behind the scenes. He's like the wizard behind the curtain, who just makes everything happen. So I'm the one who's really working with the clients. I'm shooting the sessions. When we're shooting weddings, I'm the primary photographer. At weddings, he's the primary videographer. So we, about 8 years ago-ish, added video to our studio, which has been amazing.
Awesome.
And then he also is responsible for production of those films and also all of our print production too. So he works with White House.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
He does. We get a lot of emails from Ben.
Yes.
Which it's super nice to meet him actually in person now.
Yes.
So one thing that really was very poignant when we were talking about today is Career Day and how you guys decided to join forces, because I think, even though there's probably not that direct story out there, there's probably a lot of very similar reasons that a husband and wife team work together. And just like you said, you want to be available, you want to be able to set your own hours. So tell us about Career Day.
Yeah, so leading up to Career Day, so what we're talking about is preschool Career Day for my oldest son now.
Yeah.
And they were asking the kids what they wanted to be. And my son said he wanted to be a drummer in a rock star band.
Awesome.
That's what he wanted to do.
I fully support that.
Yes. And so Ben had said, how come you don't want to be a civil engineer? Or maybe, was it somebody at his school that asked him that? You asked him, how come you don't want to be an engineer? And he said, because I would never see my family. Because Ben was working full-time as a civil engineer, and then he was going to town hearings in the evenings, and so he might leave the house at 6:30 in the morning and not get home until 10 p.m. at night.
Yeah.
So to hear a 4-year-old say that's
tough.
Is really devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediate change necessary.
Yes.
Yeah, and you did that.
Yeah, and on top of that, he was shooting weddings with me because we were never seeing each other. So even before that, it was like our son was almost like the baton that we were passing in between each other, where I was working all weekend, he was working all week. We never saw each other, so that's actually how he got into taking pictures and got the interest, was so he could spend more time with me.
Yeah.
But then he was spending 0 time with our son.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good change to happen.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that this is all relevant to where we're going to go next with the sale gone wrong is in that process of making that decision, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit. You guys set some lofty goals. You went to an IPS 100%. You started very much in a product-based environment, and you made those changes that were necessary. Now, everybody knows when you're making changes and you're going into something that is a new realm for you, there can be highs and there can be lows.
Yep.
And discussing, and when you mentioned, saving a sale that has gone wrong, I was like, ooh, my ears just perked up. I'm like, okay, we talk about the rosy side of this a lot,
right,
and how it can be wonderful, but there can be challenges to it too. So I'm really excited to get into this. So first of all, can you just describe a sale gone wrong? Like what does that mean in your business world?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that this is such an important topic, because as photographers, we have the ability to create heirlooms for our clients that are unlike anything that they're going to be able to do for themselves.
Absolutely.
And so I personally feel, as a photographer, I have a responsibility to my clients to do something with their pictures, right? But there are so many photographers who just shoot and burn, and deliver the digitals because that's easier.
Yeah.
And I think that they're doing a major disservice to their clients, and it's said in a total judgment-free way, because I know that it can be really intimidating to sell products. There's a ton of know-how that you need, which is why
just knowledge of the products itself. Yeah.
Yes, and then there's the design, and there's there's a lot that goes into that. So I understand the hesitation, but it is so important for our clients, because so many people. I go into client homes all the time, and they have literally 0 pictures of their family, or they have a very badly printed 4x6 in a frame. And it breaks my heart, because I know what these prints mean to not only to them as parents, but to their kids as they grow up. You know, prints in your home increase self-esteem and and so many good, beautiful benefits, right? So it's really important. So I was talking with a photographer recently about album sales, specifically for weddings, and she said, I had the worst experience trying to sell my client an upgraded album that I don't know if I'll ever do it again. Totally gun shy. So basically what happened is she worked with this couple. She had a great connection with them, right? She absolutely adored them. She loved the wedding. She was so proud of the wedding pictures that she created for them. The whole process was great. They pre-ordered an album as part of their package up front, okay? She spent a really long amount of time thinking through this design, very intentional, designed this beautiful album that she just knew her client was going to love, right?
Yep.
And she emailed the design over to her client, and she said, I love this. I know you're gonna love it. There are 4 additional spreads that I'm showing you. You can keep them or not. Here's the extra cost. Let me know what you think. And then it was crickets. And then a few days later, she got a very angry phone call from the bride's mom saying, how dare you, essentially. And the mom went into mama bear mode, of course. Yeah. And so I think that we've all had that happen. I've definitely had situations over the last, 10 plus years that I've been doing this where it doesn't feel good, right? Because in that moment, the client feels sold to and not in a good way, and you feel like the sleazy salesperson, which it doesn't feel good for anybody, because that's not the intention behind it, right?
Right.
So what do you do to be able to go from that situation to try to sell another album to someone else again?
Right.
Right. So that's the gap of how do you recover from that? Be able to wipe that icky feeling off.
Shake that off.
Shake that off, and then move on to the next one so that you can serve your clients.
Right. So when we were talking about this topic, something that really meant a lot to me was you have to trust yourself and your intentions. It was not the intention to be a quote unquote slimy salesperson or sleazy salesperson. It was trying to do what they felt was best for the client and what you feel is best for the client. But when you're in that situation and that has occurred, there has been steps that have been missed.
Yes.
So how do you, as a business owner, you and Ben together, quote unquote recover from that without ever getting yourself into that situation? What is the key to that? So
I think there are 3 steps that you really want to take after you've had a sale gone wrong like that to fully recover. The first one is to just acknowledge your side of things, right?
Ownership of that.
Yep. And your intention. So really get clear on your intention, because I've had this happen before where a client mistakes your intention because steps were missed, and we can get into that too. That's sort of under my 3rd part that I wanted to talk about.
I see you're very organized with your notebook.
I have to take notes because this is a really important topic, so I didn't want to miss anything. So the first one is to reconnect with your own intentions. So knowing that, okay, the client took this differently than you intended, right? So what was your intention? Well, in this case, her intention was she loved this client. She loved this wedding. She wanted to wow this client. She made her an album that was even more beautiful than what was included in her package. And her intention was in of service to her client, right? Her intention was never to be salesy. So to just sit back and say okay, I get that my intention was mistaken here, but I know in my heart that this was what I meant, right? Because
Yep.
as creatives, we never want to feel
Right.
salesy. Like we just want people to buy all of our beautiful things,
Right.
and
Just everything.
we don't actually
take
even
it
ever
all.
want to take anybody's money. We just want them to have it all for free. You know what I mean? So
It becomes hard to eat at that point. Though.
yes, yes, yeah. Like we have to, and you know what? People actually love to buy. People love to spend money, but there's a right and a wrong way to get there.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So in this whole scenario of serving your clients and communication, like what is your initial steps to not get to that place where the intentions are mixed? Like what is your first communication path with a client?
Well, I think first it's also important. So two things. I like to do what I call a post-mortem when something goes wrong. And this is from my agency days where we, as a team, we would get together and we would kind of go over, okay, what happened? What was the good? What was the not so good? Where did things fall off the rails?
Okay.
And I think when you really take the emotion out of it and you get clear on, okay, what were the steps that I took and why did this go wrong? Really considering it from the client's perspective.
Yep.
This, especially when we're creatives too, it's so easy to let the emotion take over and you kind of miss the blind spots. So from the client's perspective, in this example, she loved her wedding experience with this photographer. She loved her pictures. She already paid for an album.
So she thought she was done.
She thought she was done.
Yep.
There was no communication. There was no expectation setting. There was no desire building. There was no talk about the benefits to a bigger album. None of that, right? None of that occurred.
Yeah.
So when you think about when you go to like a dealership for a new car.
I love how you use an analogy.
Here's my analogy.
You're speaking my language.
So you go to a dealership for a new car, right? And they tell you your 6-month service is already included. That is a benefit to you. You're like, excellent, good. You buy the car, you get to your 6-month included service, you're sitting in, having your complimentary coffee, and they come out and they're like, great news. We also installed an upgraded air filter into your car. That'll be just $400, and that's going to give you better fuel efficiency. It's going to be your car will run quieter and smoother, and it's better for the environment. $400, please. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. I already paid for the car. This is supposed to already be included. I know nothing about this air filter and why I should want it. And all I'm hearing is that this is $400 that I was not planning on spending, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's basically what happened in this album example.
Right. So when would that communication, let's talk about the air filter.
Yeah.
When should have that been introduced to not be such a blow at 6 months?
So that
No pun intended on blow and air filter.
I love it. So that is, like, imagine that experience went like this. You're shopping for new cars, and you're checking out a few different dealerships, and you fall in love with this car. You test drive it. It drives great. And at that point, the dealer says to you, this car already has XYZ installed. And the great news is at 6 months, you're going to get a complimentary service where we refresh the fluids and change the fluids, whatever. And I want to tell you about this really exciting air filter that we have too. We don't put it in your car right now because you need to get your first several thousand miles and whatever reason. And this air filter really is ideal for your car at 6 months. And so here's what this air filter does for you. It will save you 2 miles a gallon on gas. It's better for the environment. Your car is going to run silent, and it's going to be the smoothest ride ever, all for this air filter. If you decide you want that at 6 months, we'll totally put that in for you. It's just $400. Okay, cool. Then when you sign on the line for this car, they're like, great, here's what's included, and here's what you also get a chance to upgrade at these points throughout the process, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're driving your car, you're loving the experience of driving the car. Every so often they're going to send you emails about, like, did you know you also have this benefit? Oh, don't forget, here's this really fancy air filter that's going to do all these incredible things for you. It's going to end up saving you this much money by the end, all these things. So by the time you get to your 6-month appointment for that maintenance,
you already want that.
You were like give me that air filter. I want that air filter.
I wanted it a month ago.
Here's my $400. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference in, I think, where a lot of people have a sale gone wrong. I've definitely made this mistake too, because it can be scary or intimidating to talk about products and pricing, and especially when you don't know if somebody wants that, but you have to give them the opportunity to want it.
Right.
Right? So that starts with education, that starts with inspiration, and really building that desire through the process.
Yeah, I like how you said a few minutes ago, desire building. So make sure and write that down. That's something that everybody watching along should just jot down, because that in itself, you can look at those two words and build a whole repertoire of communication off of that. And you think about a retail environment, like when you went to the Mall of America last night, when you guys were avoiding the storm.
Yep.
Every store in there has a way of building desire for the products that they're selling inside. It's not just a plain window with nothing in it, with nobody greeting you when you walk in the door. Like, it's showing the product, it's the full wardrobe, or cool home furnishings or whatever. They're enticing you. You have to have the desire. And I go back to, I think I'm a textbook consumer. I don't really know what I want until I see it or until I want it.
Yes.
That's why when you go into Target to buy toothpaste, you leave $400 lighter, and with a basket full of stuff. It's I want this, and I want this, I love this.
Right.
So that's a perfect way, and I'm really glad that you described it that way. Like, you have to build that desire.
Yeah.
You have to have that communication, and you have to get people understanding the value of what you're giving them.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So in that circumstance, as you're walking through the experience in your studio and the communication, so how does that look from your perspective, building up to where you would have that suggestion of the add-on? Because I know selling a large album, we're actually going to look at one in a minute here that we saw being made this morning. How do you build that excitement and desire and value to your clients?
I think a lot of it has to do with having a personal connection to what you're selling. So there are certain things in our studio that we don't offer. The things that we do offer are the things that I feel really connected to, and albums are one of them. And we have a dozen albums already in our home. It's something that I just feel deeply connected to, so it's really easy for me to talk about it to my clients. And so our process looks very similar to that air filter example, where we're talking about products on our website. We're talking about products from, like, when somebody first drops an inquiry with us and we go through our sales process, whether it be for, like, on our weddings or whether it be for portraits, there's always a mention about products right up front. We talk about investment range that people spend.
So you're being very frank about what your expectations are from the client.
Yeah. Yes. We have so I actually teach, like, the sales process for it's very unsalesy. It's a booking process, but part of that is, like, also pre-qualifying the client too. So we've got a questionnaire that talks about albums, and if you feel like the quality of print changes how you feel about a picture. And these are, like, little things that we will ask to make sure we're on the same page. And then that also lets me know too, okay, they're not sold on an album. I know that the album is going to give them something really beautiful in their life that they're going to have forever, right? And so it's a disservice to my client to not really help them understand. And then they get to make the choice on their own. So I'm never pushy or salesy, but I bring samples of albums to things so that they can touch and feel them. And with my newborn clients especially, I bring samples during my session, because everything I do is on location now.
Yeah.
And people love them. They're immediately like, yes, I want this. I want this for my child. I want this for my life.
So as long as you brought that up.
Yes.
With the newborn client, let's just kind of take a peek at this. So
yes.
Just so everybody knows, we actually built this album in front of your eyes this morning.
Yes.
So this is a premium leather, and it has Fuji luster photo pages in it with a thick white insert. So you've got 24 spreads in here, I believe. So this is a nice size album. You'll notice it has the rounded corners on the cover, but maybe we can sneak in on just grabbing a few kind of details here.
Yeah, so this is the entire journey of this baby's first year, from pregnancy through to newborn and 6 months and 1 year. These are really popular in our studio because now, like these babies change so much within 1 year. So much growth happens.
Right.
That just what a gift to be able to have this to look through.
Oh, incredible. And you are selling this at the newborn session.
Yes.
So the client is planning for having
Yes.
this full album for the full year
Yes.
right from the beginning. So you guys, again, are pre-qualifying your clients. You know that you're shooting for that.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And it's got the debossing on the cover. Yeah.
And
Awesome
this is
job.
a client that we've worked with for years and years and years. This is their second baby.
Okay.
So now they have a collection of albums, just like we have in our own home. They love every single one of them. They have we actually did a whole gallery wall
Yep.
of prints from each of their first year sessions from both babies that we also combined with some of their weddings. So it's like
Cool.
a canvas gallery wall that's really cool in their living room right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we dive down the lofty goals and the 150,000, 12 months, all that stuff, I do want to go back so we don't forget to do it and talk about the postmortem discussion of something that went wrong, because I think that's a very important topic to discuss here. So when you go through that process of looking at where things potentially fell down or did fall down.
Yes.
And the recovery from it. How do you do that? Like if you went through that experience and you're kind of shut down and you're scared and like I don't know what I'm going to do. How is it that you recover basically?
Yeah. So it's first really getting clear with your own intentions and releasing any sort of guilt or that you might feel, any of those negative feelings that you might feel, and just checking back in. I did this for my client. This was not about a sale, right? This was about creating something really beautiful for my client and serving.
Yep.
Then checking in with their perspective. So really that's the postmortem part where you really break down, this is exactly what happened from what my client saw. These are all of the steps. And then the third piece to that is the recovery piece, which is, okay, considering my perspective, considering their perspective, because there's always two sides and they can look very, very different.
Yes.
I can see super clearly what happened because of that postmortem, because of going through those steps. Now I need to update my process to educate, inspire, build desire. So that's like putting products everywhere you show up online, social media, website, talking about products, sharing your excitement about them. If you're excited about a product, like how when we're excited about albums, that excitement is really easy to feel when it's genuine, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
so our clients get excited, and then they can start to picture like, okay, in 10 years, when this baby is now, a 10-year-old girl, she's gonna have all of this to look back on and just remember how important and special she was. And so it's building those steps in of like, right up front, people know what you're about, it's in your brand. And then there's communication all along the way. There's transparency all along the way. And that just follows through so that you're building desire, and there's never any surprises. It's really all about like proactive communication.
Right. And I'll add, my little perspective to this too. When you're working with a client, it's not about you
Right.
or you, it's about them.
Yes.
And whether you're right, wrong, or indifferent, if the goal is to keep that client or to keep that client from causing damage, you have to do much more than what they would ever expect to try to make things correct.
Yes.
If you so choose, and making sure that gap is closed. You might never ever want to see that client again, and you certainly don't want them to refer people like them, but that is, you have to have that ownership of what potentially went wrong that you caused.
Yes.
And be able to be like, yep, I screwed up.
Yep.
This was incorrect. This is how I'm fixing it. And now we're going to move on, try to shove that negative
Yes.
energy away and build on the positive.
Yes. And I think it's really easy to feel defensive and feel like, well, that's not how I meant it. Why are they getting so mad? And to feel like you're the one who's been wronged because you know your own intention, but it's taking ownership and just getting clear on, okay, well, what might have they been feeling in that moment too?
Right.
And sorry goes a long way.
It does.
if they've
A
had a poor
genuine sorry.
experience, an apology, sort of like an explanation of your own intentions, and a bless and release, a redo of that album, remove the 4 spreads, give them something beautiful, maybe gift them a spread, something, gift them some sort of, upgrade. And like there is a way to recover from that by going above and beyond, because can I share a little story about a product situation that actually led us to White House?
Yes, absolutely.
So before we used White House for our wall art, for our framing, we sell a lot of frames. We had been using a company that's actually out of business now. And our client that we've served for years, we did their engagement, their wedding, family, they had hung this framed print on the wall, and the frame broke. It fell off the wall. And so she reached out to me and she just said, I'm really disappointed. We spent a lot of money on this frame, and this frame like fell off the wall and we were expecting more. And so that was devastating because I love this client.
Right.
And
those are hard words.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Disappointed is the worst word, isn't it?
That's a hard one.
Yeah. So in that moment, we reached out and I said, well, can you tell me how you hung it? And so they had actually hung it the wrong way. And she wrote back and was like, oh, my bad. You know what? Like we hung it the wrong way. It's our fault. So I said, nope. We were already questioning the quality of those frames anyways. We would love to reprint that for you with our new printer, White House custom color, and replace that order for you. And so she said, okay. And the next piece showed up and it was beautiful and well made. And she has been with us ever since. And that was probably 6, 8? Yeah. Somewhere between 5 and 10 years. The years just...
I know. They just kind of blend
together. They just
together.
go now. And she's been with us ever since. And our prices have increased. Our product quality has increased. It's all gone up. And she's been with us. So sometimes a sale gone wrong or something gone wrong in your business can actually be an opportunity to provide next level customer service and
Absolutely.
Keep that client for life.
1,000%. Yes. And for those of you in the back, make sure that you rewind that and listen to it again and turn it up real loud, because that is 100% true, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So before we move on here, I want to talk about Ben's introduction into the business and like how that all ties together with your sales, with your communications, with what he does, with what you do. But and I think this is important to note because there's a lot of husband-wife teams out there, mm-hmm. and you guys worked constantly. Your little 4-year-old noticed that, checked you on it, and mm-hmm. you guys had to figure out what to do from there.
Right.
And you made the right choice. But in that choice, what was your plan to get him out of civil engineering and to make an additional $150,000 in 12 months?
Yeah, I had to put on my big girl pants and start treating my business like a business and holding myself to a higher standard. So it was nothing fancy. This doesn't need to be hard or fancy. We literally sat down, the two of us. I still remember it really vividly. We had like an 11 by 17 sheet of paper and a black Sharpie marker, and we had figured out, prior to that, we had figured out our budget and what we really needed to bring in, taking into account all of these things that you need to think about, healthcare and taxes and all of this stuff, the additional costs that you have to have for business and for personal in order to support yourself.
Yep.
And we figured out that we had to bring in an additional $150,000, and we gave ourselves 12 months to do it because we said we could only deal with this lifestyle for 1 more year.
Okay. So he was still in his role.
Yes.
So you added a ton more work during that 12 mm-hmm. months, kind of as a reality check.
Yes.
Like, can we do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we broke down on that sheet of paper what our business plan was, and it was to photograph 30 weddings at $5,000 a wedding, and then I don't remember exactly how many portraits or what our average was, but at that point we needed to get really serious. This was no longer a hobby. This was a business that needed to make a certain sales average per client in order to hit our goals. And I think it's so important for photographers to set goals because I had been wishy-washy for quite a while, and it was fine. It was working fine for us, right? But if you don't ever really get clear on what your goal is, you're never going to attain it.
Right.
And nearly everything is attainable once you have a goal and a plan to get there, as long as you show up and do the work, right? So we had to take our business from, I think it was making around $80,000-ish to, we ended up getting it to $225,000, basically right at that 12-month mark, and Ben put his notice in. And that was 2014, so this is our 10th year.
Wow.
As a husband and wife team.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you still put up with him.
He puts up with me, let's be honest. Ben Ewing is a saint.
Oh, that's funny. So I know that the goal of life and what your life looks like is very, very important to you. It's not all about, financial, it's family and the boys and all that stuff. Like,
yes.
What is your plan for the future as the scheme of your life is adapting and changing? Like, have you adapted that 30 weddings and average order and everything to fit your current lifestyle, or how have you developed in the last 10 years?
So it's been a lot. I love evolving. I think it keeps things spicy and sparkly and new.
Yep.
And yeah, exactly. And so now our weddings look very different. So now we take about 15 weddings a year. We shoot photo and video. And so we are able to make significantly more per booking, which is lovely. We can be home more with our kids who play a lot of baseball, a ridiculous amount of baseball. And so we get to watch a ridiculous amount of baseball now. But yes, work-life balance is really important. Giving our kids experiences that we never had. So really being able to travel. My youngest, Cooper, has lofty goals. And so he had this one goal, and this is a lot about like our approach to life, I think, is summed up in Cooper's goal. So when he was about 5 or 6, he said, Mom and Dad, by the time I'm 11, I want to have gone to Disney World, Hawaii, and Paris.
Wow. At
Yes,
11?
At 11. So at first we were like, okay, excuse me, how are you going to get there? How are you going
Get
to
to
do
mowing
this?
some lawns.
Yes. And so I loved that because that was a big, beautiful goal, right? And so he saw the potential for that, and he didn't see any reason why it wouldn't happen, right?
Right.
And so we connected on that, and we said, we also love this goal. And you know what, by the time you're 11, we also want to do all of these things, so let's do it. So we went to Disney World maybe the next year. With the pandemic, we were able to, because everything was remote, they were remote schooling, we had the opportunity to spend a month living in Maui.
Wow.
In 2021, which was absolutely incredible.
That sounds terrible.
It was.
Why
it was
would you
awful.
want to do something
February in Maui versus Boston.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we spent a month in Hawaii, and it was absolutely incredible, and it changed all of our lives. And we will be heading to Paris for the week of Thanksgiving this November.
Fantastic.
And then we've also added on London. Because
As long as
Cooper,
you're there.
Cooper was like, is London on the way to Paris? Can we stop there too? I'd really love to
this
see the
kid.
Westminster Abbey. So that's what we're doing. So yeah, I think that the ability, this job has given us the ability to really create this life that, might not have ever seemed possible before.
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of the pandemic, we're going to close with this here, a little discussion about how your physical business space has changed as well too. So you mentioned when we were on the call in 2020, I think it was a 5-year lease, came due in November, is that correct, of 2020?
Yes.
And you guys made the decision then, because I think we all were like, well, where's the world going with all this? We don't know, of moving out of the brick and mortar studio and having offices out of your home.
Yep.
And you started doing your sales appointments via Zoom.
Yes.
So I think it's very important, knowing that you are achieving a certain level of success. How did that transition go with your clients? Did everything move seamlessly? How did the communications work with that?
It was actually very seamless.
Okay.
I loved our studio space. So we had a brick and mortar studio for 10 years.
Yep.
This second studio space we had, we custom designed thanks to Ben's civil engineering prowess. It had bamboo floors. It had just beautiful doors. It was like a dream studio.
Yep.
And so to walk away from that in 2020 was a little bittersweet. We just realized that we didn't need it anymore and that our clients actually preferred a more remote experience.
Okay.
I think everybody just got used to doing things more remotely, and there's such a convenience there for a lot of our clients are in downtown Boston, so we're out in the burbs. They would have to drive to us, and coordinating with kids' schedules for even if people were local, there was a lot more coordination where now it just feels more easy for everybody.
Okay.
And we have a lot of clients who stick with us, and so they already know the process, and they're like, yep, just help me pick my favorite images, Erica. I already know we're getting an album. I already know we're adding wall art. We use Fundy, and so we do all of our designs. Like I'll either go to my clients' homes if it's a newborn session, I'm already there. I'll snap photos of their walls. I'll come up with the designs for them, show them that virtually. For those sessions, I bring samples. They can see them in person, get to know what they like, get to envision what they want for their family, and then we just take care of it over Zoom.
That's awesome.
So easy.
So you're really doing a very hybrid system where you're bringing product to the session appointment. So you're doing a style consult with them ahead of time, part of your communication. You're discussing products at that point, listening to what their wants and needs are, and then bringing samples with you so they can touch and feel it.
Yes.
So then during the Zoom meeting, it's not you trying to sell them something. You've already done that. They know what they're getting.
Yes.
It's just a matter of, here's what I recommend for your wall display. Let's just choose the images.
Yes.
Yes, and that's awesome. So you're really pre-designing the whole experience through so you don't have to recover a sale.
Yes.
At that point. You like how I tied that all together?
I love it.
I've had my coffee
Nice
today.
little nut, yeah.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
well done.
Yeah. So this has been fantastic. And again, when you sent me options for discussions today, when I saw that, I'm like, yes, I wanna talk about that because I think it's something that we all kind of walk around like, what happens if it doesn't go right, and how do you save it? Can you save it? What can you do to not get yourself into that situation?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, you come from a wealth of knowledge with your own business, but you also do education, and you're coaching, you're teaching. Can you tell us where people could find you online, a little bit about kind of what you help with certain businesses, and then we'll close out after that?
Sure. So you can find us at the Ewings Studio on Instagram.
Okay. I follow that account.
Hey, I follow you back.
I know
Be
you
the
do.
Hive. Go follow Be the Hive in the Ewings Photography Studio. And I help, right now my programs are more specific to wedding photographers and professionals, creatives, who are struggling to build that desire with their inquiries. So right now, it really is hard. It's a hard market to be in. There's a lot of competitors. Everybody is there's a lot of talent in our industry, right?
Yes, there is.
And so how do you stand out and showcase your value in a way that is different, in a way that's going to set you apart from the crowd and really build that desire so that you create this experience, kind of like the air filter experience we were talking about, where someone inquires with you about potentially you shooting their wedding. They're maybe a little interested. They might also be inquiring on 15 other photographer sites, right? How do you build that value and create a pre-client experience that has them excited to not only respond to your email, to book a consult with you, and before their consult, they're are pretty much already ready to book. They just want to confirm that their hunch that you're the right fit for them is reality. And so it's really a combination of messaging and then a booking process that just feels really good. I don't love selling. I'm going to tell you that. I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't love selling, but I love serving, and I love.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good quote. I'm just pointing at the camera.
Good, good one. And so, to me, I really wanted to create a way that helped show the value there, helped right fit clients see that I'm the right fit for them, and vice versa, that they're the right fit for me, because I don't want to serve everybody. I've been doing this for a long time. There are people out there that I don't want to serve, but somebody else is better for them.
And that's okay.
It's like there's a lid
totally
for every
fine.
pot.
Yeah. Oh, there's another good one.
There's a lid for every pot. So that's what it's all about, is really dialing in your message around your right fit client, building a bookings process that just feels really good to everybody involved.
Okay, awesome. Well, this has been fantastic, and we love having you guys here. We have a busy afternoon set up for you. You're going to see some wall display products. We're going to have lunch. We're going to have a great dinner tonight. So thank you again for your discussion today and taking your time to hang out with us and the guy in the back.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
we appreciate
absolutely.
it.
So again, if you have questions after you've watched the live here on recording, make sure and put them into the comments. We'll go ahead and reach out to Erica and get her to answer any questions you have. Make sure and follow along on Instagram at WHCC Pro. Hit the subscribe button on our WHCC YouTube, and for all of your product questions, check out WHCC.com. This has been lovely. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And we hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you at the next one.